victories and that kind of thing.
So then he's going to play to that group tonight in West Virginia. But the question becomes, Tara, is that group enough? I mean, how does that help him, what he's doing tonight, the time, the energy, the prep spent, getting any points on the board, as he is simultaneously, in the same sort of 12-hour period, continuing to alienate his own Congress that he needs on his side to get any of these legislative points on the board?
Well, his staff is banking on the fact that Congress has such low approval ratings that their approval, in fact, doesn't really affect his. And yes, the president is very much aware that he needs to get on the road. While he doesn't like to travel, one senior administration official told me that once he's done with the rallies, he's on the way home on Air Force One, he usually says, "That was great. I really enjoyed that," because he really does feed off the crowds. He just doesn't really like to leave the White House and go through the whole rigmarole of traveling, which can be difficult as president. But Trump really does need to get back there. He needs to be talking to that 30%, and he needs to be showing action, because obviously talk is not enough. These people voted for him. He had big promises, and they want deliverables. And so far, he's had a really hard time giving any sort of legislative deliverables.
You know, it's interesting, David Drucker, another item in this poll, people were asked about the president's use of Twitter, whether or not he should continue to use it. 69% said no. Among Republicans, 54% no. And this poll was before. You're one of them?
I'm just glad we're all coming together on this.
Oh, yeah, it is an example. We can all come together. The president healing divisions right now. Notable, David, that the president did issue this statement this morning, which seems to be alienating Congress even more, sucking up to Vladimir Putin maybe even more. Maybe an example of what some of those people concerned about his Twitter use are saying.
Yeah, look, I have talked to Republican voters in the field a number of times, and they tell me that they like the president's agenda. They want him to succeed. They're not ready to give up on him, but they don't like his use of Twitter. They don't like his antics and his behavior, and they wish that he could tone it down, be more focused, and, to coin a Trump phrase, be more presidential. And so the president has an opportunity here if he can actually produce. And I think one of the things he's going to have to do in order to do that for these big-ticket items that go beyond executive orders and things that are completely in his control is, number one, reorient the way he deals with Congress. Well, it's very cathartic for a lot of voters to beat up on Congress, because nobody really ever liked Congress, but they like them even less now. The way he has jawboned Congress, threatened Congress, and strong-armed Congress is not going to produce results, because they plan on being around Washington a lot longer after President Trump is gone. And so a re-engagement with members of Congress, taking off the table all of the threats, could help him over the long term. I think the other thing that the administration needs to get better at, and maybe John Kelly can help him get there, is to learn how to negotiate a legislative deal. For all of the president's hype about what a great negotiator he is, and he may have been in real estate and in entertainment, this White House so far has not proven adept at negotiating legislation. It's complex, it's different, you're dealing with multiple personalities, a lot of interconnected parts, and they're simply not good at it yet, and they're going to have to get good at it, or they're going to run into roadblocks with tax reform and infrastructure, never mind health care still hanging out there.
But, Mary Catherine, isn't a fundamental issue, to David's point, the fact that the president does not think he has a negotiating problem? I mean, even after he grudgingly signed the sanctions bill, he said yesterday, I can make far better deals with other countries than Congress has. And Ken, so if he doesn't think he has a problem, that's a problem.
Right. I think that's a pattern we've seen. Like, his conception of himself is that he's very, very good at this.
But someone called him and told him that he's a great negotiator.
I know. And then he told us all about it. And then Congress is a very different animal to deal with. I think this is one of the open questions about General John Kelly, is whether he can impose some order and convince him that, look, this hasn't worked the way you want it to thus far. Let me see if I can make some inroads in different ways and get this show on the road. And I think that's an open question. I think he respects John Kelly. The question is how long that lasts, because if it's anyone other than his immediate family, often that doesn't last that long. But John Kelly's not a guy who's going to get run roughshod over.
You won't think. Tara, it is Politico reporting that John Kelly's trying to, choke off the flow of information coming to the president, sort of control him, really manage him in a way that you haven't seen before. You think that could work?
The president is in a unique position in the sense that he doesn't use a computer, he doesn't look online, he doesn't seek his own information. So in a way, he's very vulnerable to the influence of other people and the kind of information they put in front of him. As we've seen in the past, some aides have used reporting that's very weak to try to convince him to make certain decisions, and it's very effective. And so Kelly is saying, anything you put in his hands needs to come through me first, because aides would tell me that they would slip in news articles into his daily binder to get his attention. He is very influenced because his ideology isn't completely formed. And so because of that, you know, more so than any other White House, does personnel matter in terms of impacting policy, because these people have an influence on a person who hasn't really formed their views per se. And yes, Kelly is trying to cut off access. He's trying to keep the Oval Office from being a revolving door. But at the end of the day, one senior administration official told me, listen, he's not going to try to stop Trump from being Trump, and he is not going to stop him from tweeting, so don't expect that from happening. And Trump does like having interactions with staffers, but he wants to limit those from the time sucks.
Another man who said don't stop Trump from being Trump, don't even try, is Anthony Scaramucci. And tomorrow we get a brand new program coming our way. Call it
Scaramucci Vision.
He's been saying it all morning. David Drucker, Anthony Scaramucci said in this interview to the Daily Beast this week, I'm going dark, but he's not. He's going under the bright lights, telling his story tomorrow.
And nobody in Trump's inner circle ever goes away or ever goes dark. They always reemerge. I think Anthony Scaramucci is going to continue to be close to the president in that sort of orbit that Corey Lewandowski exists in. And that's one of the reasons I think that Trump ultimately never really changes how he operates, because a lot of the influences on him that are ultimately deemed to be unhelpful, let's say, to his success, whether it was in the campaign or whether it was in the White House, never really drift away. And I think over time we'll see Anthony Scaramucci reemerge as one of the president's surrogates on television. And in doing that, prior to his blow-up last week, he was actually always very effective at that. And it's clearly something that he has an interest in keeping up, because he's putting on a big show tomorrow. He's casting a big spotlight on himself. I don't think this is going to be the last we're going to see of him for quite a while.
As long as it's not 9 to 11 a.m. Eastern, I'm okay with it. I don't want any competition on those ratings. Thank you very, very much, David, Tara, and Mary Catherine Ham. Again, Mary's book. Do you have it?
Before the bell.
All right, there it is.
End of discussion right there.